Good morning, everybody. Today I would like to talk about ATGATT, or rather the pro-ATGATT philosophy and its counterpart. So, what is ATGATT? ATGATT refers to ATG, all the gear, all the time. And what does that essentially define gear is that most people would agree that it includes a helmet, it includes gloves, boots, a leather jacket and leather riding pants with armor, of course. And well, the main point of this ATGATT philosophy is that having gear, no matter what the time of the year it is and no matter where you are riding in, you should have it on, because it essentially makes it harder for accidents to kill you or injure you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have MotoGP doing the same thing to its riders with their entire full suit of super soldier equipment. But the thing is about this ATGATT philosophy is the main proponents of the philosophy, or rather the places that have the largest bulk of proponents for the ATGATT philosophy usually comes from Western countries like Australia, Europe, and the US, Canada. Why is it that they have such a differing view on this topic to the rest of the world, like Asia and the Middle East and Africa? Well, you have to think that about their situation. First of all, Western countries, many of them are rather prosperous. The citizens essentially have a higher ability to spend money against the cost of stuff that they find there. So gear usually is affordable to Western riders as opposed to people from Asia. The other thing is location. Where do these countries usually find themselves in? They are usually in the temperate regions where you have the 4 seasons. So naturally, if you're talking about autumn, spring, winter, gear is never a problem. It's always extremely comfortable to be able to wear gear during those seasons, and even in the summer. Even though temperate regions have summers that can reach as high as 40 degrees Celsius, the thing is that most of these summers are accompanied by a rather dry climate that makes it feel as if it isn't as hot as it is. The other thing that I would like to think that why Westerners have such an easier time accepting this ATGATT philosophy might also be because of the fact that they are usually in countries where you can afford to have many vehicles. So most riders in the US, especially, for example, they do not primarily commute on a motorcycle, not like I do. I only have one vehicle, and this vehicle is my entire livelihood. It is extremely different from many American riders who use their motorcycles for recreation or only when the weather is right. So if the weather is not right, they can use the car, which essentially makes it more comfortable for their daily commute. So why is it that people like us from Asia, we do not seem to follow that rule? Is, like I said before, we are poor in comparison to the Americans or the Europeans. First of all, whenever I look at conversations between Westerners about the price of gear, the thing is that most of them consider gear rather affordable or even cheap, because they can buy theirs for about 100, 200 US dollars, and their salaries can range from anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 US dollars every month at the very least. But in Asia, many of us work on salaries of 1,000 to 1,500 US dollars a month. But gear, it usually costs about anywhere from 800 to 1,000 US dollars just for the jacket and the riding pants alone. And it really makes it difficult for people here to justify the cost of owning one, especially if you are living from paycheck to paycheck. The other reason is, of course, weather. When you look at Asian weather, especially Southeast Asian, where we are living in the tropics are mostly hot, humid, with a 90% humidity rate, and even though it is usually lower in temperature all year round, reaching at most 35 degrees most of the time, the thing about the humidity is that humidity makes it feel hotter than it actually is, which is the opposite from the temperate regions. So if you are going to commute long distances every single day in this kind of weather, it can be extremely unbearable. And the thing is, most of us don't have additional cars where we can use a car just because it feels hot that day or is cold that day or whatever. So the fact that cars are practically impossible to afford as a second vehicle, well, we do not have the luxury of comfort. So that's why people you see from Asia do not wear gear, and it should be food for thought to all of you Western riders out there that judge us as being reckless and dangerous for riding like squids with no gear, because we are not. We have legitimate reasons why we do not wear gear. I personally have a limit. I only have gloves, as you can see here, and a helmet, and that's about it, because that's all I can afford, and that's all I can feel comfortable in. If I put on a jacket, it's only because it's raining. I have a set of rain gear, Gore-Tex rain gear in my box behind me, but it wasn't exactly because I could afford it. In fact, my Gore-Tex jacket and pants, which I would consider my gear, is free, most of it. My Gore-Tex jacket, which cost about 100 US dollars, was given to me when I was serving in the army, and my pants was a 20 US dollar purchase from eBay from a military surplus store. So essentially, I wasn't actually able to afford it, but I could have it because I was lucky. So that's all I have to say about why. Of course, even in Asia, there are people who do subscribe to this all the gear all the time rule, but they are the minority. They are the people who own cars, only use their motorcycles for the weekend joyride. So they are a lot different from people, the majority of the riders here that only ride because they have no choice. We do not have a car. So if you have any thoughts about this philosophy, what are your views on the gear all the time rule and how it applies to people, whether you believe that all the time and no matter the place is the best way to push that rule, or do you believe that gear is situational? If you have any views on this topic, leave it in the comments below, and we will continue this discussion next time.